Back in my day. Good morning and welcome to Whenever You Are. I am Bandit Hayes, and today I'm going to be talking about No Country for Old Men. And there will be spoilers ahead. Now, this is a movie that came out around about the same time as There Will Be Blood. In fact, it was actually being made at the same time and in the same location as There Will Be Blood, and it often gets brought up in the same conversations as There Will Be Blood, mainly due to the fact that on first viewing, neither of these movies make a whole lot of sense. But the main difference between There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men, as I can see it, is that if you watch There Will Be Blood a second or first time, then you might start to realize some of these subtleties that you may have missed on the first viewing. Whereas no matter how many times you watch No Country for Old Men, it's still a weird ass movie that's scared to eat pussy, so it beats around the bush. And if you got that reference, drop it in the comments. Let me put it this way. Watching No Country for Old Men is like watching a comedian do a long build up and never deliver the punchline. It's like being really excited to see a new movie coming out, get into the cinema, and then they're not even showing the movie. It's like going to a Lauryn Hill concert. So what I want to do with this video is try to make some sense of the nonsensical. Now, the general story is that there's this guy who finds some money and he decides to keep it, but then the people who the money belongs to, they're after him. And then there's this other guy who looks like his mum cuts his hair. He's going around killing a bunch of dudes while looking for the first guy. And then while all that is happening, there's a sheriff who's just sort of there, you know, orders his partner around, tells a bunch of stories, doesn't really do much, and then it ends. Now, I do have a couple of theories about this movie. First theory is that this movie isn't supposed to make any sense. It's not really trying to. Now, I know that sounds like a cop-out. Let me explain. The film is called No Country for Old Men, and it starts off with a narration from Tommy Lee Jones's character, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell. And by the way, his first name is Ed Tom, not Ed, Ed Tom. Apparently everything is bigger in Texas, so if one name isn't long enough, they just give you another. Anyway, Ed Tom is talking about the good old days when a sheriff didn't even need to carry a gun. And then he goes on to talk about a boy who he arrested in Huntsville here a while back. The boy was sentenced to death for killing a 14-year-old girl, and he showed no signs of remorse and knew he was going to hell. And Ed Tom didn't know what to say about that. Ed Tom is one of the old men that this country is no for. His whole purpose is to show the difference between his generation and the current generation, so almost every conversation he has involves something to do with changing times. The crimes of today are so much worse than when he was young or when his daddy was a sheriff. Then you stop hearing sir and ma'am, and they start doing the drugs, and then they start the masturbating. Okay, they didn't say that last bit, but it's true. By the end of the film, Sheriff Ed Tom Bell retires because he feels outmatched. His brand of justice just isn't cutting it in today's world. So, what is today's world? Alright, so Llewellyn Moss is the guy who finds the drug money while out hunting for deer. And by the way, just as a side note, if you ever happen to come across $2 million in a suitcase near a bunch of men all with multiple bullet holes in them, do what they did in Ant-Man. Back it up now. Back it up. Just back it up now. Back it up. But of course, it's a movie, so he's going to take the money. Now, a typical scenario would be that the people who were trying to get the money in the first place would want to track him down, which is what happens. By the way, the people who are trying to get the money in the first place in the film, they are referred to as the Mexicans, though I think the politically correct term is bad hombres. But now it starts to get a little bit untypical. The people who wanted to buy the drugs are also trying to track down Llewellyn to get their money back. Now, why weren't they more concerned with getting their drugs? I'll come back to that. So the drug buyers, I'm going to refer to them as managerial. They hire Anton Chigurh to find the man who took the money, Llewellyn Moss. Anton Chigurh kills managerial and then goes to find Llewellyn Moss. Now, as far as the film is concerned, Anton Chigurh is the main reason why it is No Country for Old Men. In the beginning of the movie, he gets arrested, he kills the arresting officer, steals a police car, kills a civilian, steals his car, makes a shopkeeper bet for his life on a coin toss, like Two-Face, kills managerial, antagonizes and kills more people, blows up a car to distract a pharmacy, and at the end of the film, he visits Llewellyn's wife, Carla Jean, even though Llewellyn is already dead, because he gave Llewellyn his word that he'd kill her. This is a guy that goes around with an air gun that you use to kill cattle with, and uses it to kill people and break into their homes. And he has a foot fetish. I'll come back to that as well. Anton Chigurh can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. The point is, Anton Chigurh is a class of criminal that Ed Tom Bell just does not understand. Ed Tom is an old school sheriff that never really adapted to the escalation. Cops start carrying semi-automatics, they buy automatics. Cops start wearing Kevlar, they buy armor-piercing rounds. And now this guy, with a flair for the theatrics. Sorta. Now, in the beginning of the film, during Ed Tom's narration, he said that he wasn't afraid to die, he just didn't want to put himself in a situation that he didn't understand. And that's what he feels more and more is happening. From the boy who killed the 14-year-old girl, to the couple who rented out rooms to the elderly so they could torture them, kill them, bury them, then cash their social security checks, and now, Anton Chigurh. I mean, he's a psychopathic killer, but so what? Ed Tom is a man who likes to hear stories about the old days, recognizes people from his neighborhood by their car, and is on first name basis with the lady from the diner. So when the movie ends with no real conclusion, plus we never really find out what the bigger story was, apart from something to do with the goddamn money and the drugs, I think that was a very deliberate choice, because perhaps we are also the old men that this country isn't for. Now that was my first theory. My second theory, I believe, represents the true meaning of the film. It's all about the dangers of the secrets of the universe. First of all, no country is set in 1980, which means Agent K is supposed to be a post office worker and dead at the same time. Because of too much messing around with the secrets of the universe, he's not a post office worker, he's not dead, and on top of all that, he's existing in the same time as his younger self. All this leads to him being confused and not really knowing how to deal with the world. I mean, this is a guy who at one time had no problem chasing down Han Solo. Now, gets outmatched by a Bond villain. Time travel. Just say no. Alright, so before I end this video, there's a few more things I want to talk about, and those are: who hired Anton Chigurh, and did Anton Chigurh kill Carla Jean Moss? Now, at first it seems managerial hired Anton to find Llewellyn. However, I don't think that's quite the full story, because later on, when the man who hired Wells is hiring Wells, he says, "We have a loose cannon here." Pause. He actually says, "got a loose cannon here," but it is inferred that he's talking about himself, so it still counts. Continue. "And we are out of a bunch of money." Now, managerial had the receiver for the tracking device that was hidden inside the money case that went missing. Also, the term loose cannon typically reserved for people who are in your employ that you cannot control, which means managerial were working under the man who hired Wells, who I think is also the man who hired Anton Chigurh. So, who is the man who hired Wells? Well, that's never explained, but at a guess, I'd say he's probably CIA, though that can never be confirmed nor denied. And did Anton kill Carla Jean? Yes, he did. Anton loves his feet. Specifically, he loves his footwear, so much so that he doesn't like to sully his shoes, and even throws away his socks when they get blood on them. Now, when Anton visits Carla Jean and asks her to gamble for her life on a coin toss, like Two-Face, we don't see the outcome. However, when Anton exits the house, the very first thing he does is check the soles of his boots. And that is what I think of No Country for Old Men. What do you think? Airport or airstrip? Let me know down below, and if you liked this video, give it a like and share it amongst your friends. If you did not like it, then give it a dislike. and share it amongst your enemies. Either way, let me know your reasons in the comments. Subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for watching, and until whenever, if ever, call it.